Have you ever watched a father lift his child onto his shoulders? It feels so ordinary that we never stop to question it. A father protecting, a child laughing, a family walking through a park. But almost everything about that moment belongs to the modern world. For more than 99% of human history, there were no parks, no schools, no family photographs, no birthday parties. There were only open grasslands, freezing nights, hungry predators, and the constant uncertainty of tomorrow. Every sunrise was another test of survival. And yet somehow our ancestors raised children who survived long enough to become parents themselves. That raises one of the strangest questions in human evolution. Did ancient fathers actually love their children? Or were they simply protecting the next copy of their own genes? The answer is far stranger than most people imagine, because love does not fossilize. Bones survive, stone tools survive, footprints survive. Love leaves no skeleton behind. To understand this mystery, we first have to understand ourselves. Humans are unusual. Among nearly every mammal, mothers carry almost the entire burden of raising young. Our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, make that uncomfortably clear. In most chimpanzee communities, mothers carry, feed, and protect their offspring almost entirely alone. Adult males defend the group from outside threats, but they rarely spend years raising an individual child. Now look somewhere completely different. Gray wolves. A wolf father brings food back to the den. He guards the pups. He helps teach them how to survive. Some birds go even further. Male emperor penguins balance a single egg on their feet for nearly 2 months through the Antarctic winter, enduring temperatures below -40 degrees Celsius, while the females travel out to sea to find food. So where do humans fit? Strangely, somewhere in between. Your body still carries the blueprint of an ape, but your behavior often resembles a species built for cooperation. That contradiction has fascinated scientists for decades. One of the most influential researchers studying this question is anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy. In her landmark 2009 book, Mothers and Others, Hrdy argued that human children survived not because of mothers alone, but because of an entire network of caretakers. Grandparents helped, older siblings helped, friends helped, and in many communities, fathers helped too. This idea is known today as cooperative breeding. Unlike most mammals, humans evolved in social groups where the enormous cost of raising a child was shared across many people, and that cost was extraordinary. A newborn human enters the world almost helpless. Compared with other primates, our babies cannot walk. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot even hold up their own heads. Why? Scientists believe two evolutionary pressures collided head-on. Our ancestors evolved larger brains that needed more time to develop. At the same time, upright walking on two legs reshaped the pelvis in ways that limited how large a newborn's head could be at birth. For decades, this was explained simply as a trade-off between big brains and narrow hips, often called the obstetrical dilemma. But more recent research complicates that story. In 2012, anthropologist Holly Dunsworth and her colleagues published an influential study arguing that pelvis width may not be the limiting factor at all. Instead, they proposed that mothers give birth when they do because of metabolic limits, a point where a mother's body simply cannot supply enough energy to keep growing the fetus any further inside the womb. In other words, ancient childbirth timing wasn't just about fitting through the hips. It may have been about how much energy a mother's body could sustain. Either way, one outcome stayed the same. Human babies were born early, undeveloped, and completely dependent. Human childhood became incredibly long. A chimpanzee becomes largely independent within a few years. Humans may need more than 15 years before becoming fully capable adults. No mother could carry that burden alone while also gathering enough food to survive. Extra caregivers weren't a luxury. They were a necessity. This is the foundation of the modern scientific explanation. In 1972, evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers formalized this into parental investment theory. The idea that parents invest time and energy into offspring when doing so increases the odds that their genes continue into the future. It's one of the most powerful frameworks in evolutionary biology. It explains why some birds pair for life, why wolves cooperate, why many mammals never do. And it explains on paper why humans build long-lasting families. But like every scientific theory, it leaves questions unanswered. If fatherhood is only about passing on genes, why do adoptive fathers risk everything for children who share none of their DNA? Why do stepfathers become lifelong protectors? Why does losing a child leave wounds that last for decades? Natural selection can explain survival. It is far harder to explain sacrifice. Perhaps the answers are waiting somewhere much older, buried beneath layers of stone, hidden in the lives of people whose names disappeared hundreds of thousands of years ago. Imagine the world nearly 1.8 million years ago. The African sun hangs low over endless grassland. Dust rises beneath bare feet. In the distance, vultures circle something that has already died. Every sound is a warning. Every shadow could hide a predator. Now imagine a small child trying to survive here alone. The odds are almost impossible. A child cannot outrun a lion, cannot fight off a leopard, cannot find enough food, cannot survive without someone choosing to stay. That simple choice may have changed the course of human evolution. One of the oldest clues comes from Dmanisi, an extraordinary archaeological site in present-day Georgia. In the early 2000s, a team led by paleoanthropologist David Lord Kipanidze uncovered the remains of several early members of the genus Homo, dated to around 1.8 million years old. One skull stunned researchers. It belonged to an older adult who had lost nearly every tooth years before death. Without teeth, chewing tough meat or raw plants should have been nearly impossible. Yet this person didn't die right away. They lived for years afterwards. The findings, published in 2005, pointed to something remarkable. Someone had to help. Someone likely softened their food. Someone shared precious calories in a world where every meal mattered. We'll never know exactly who. A daughter, a son, a close companion, perhaps a father, caring for an aging elder of the group. Science can't give us a name, but it gives us something almost as powerful. Compassion leaves traces not in emotion, but in survival. This discovery reshaped how scientists viewed our earliest ancestors. They weren't just individuals competing to survive. They were communities capable of keeping the vulnerable alive long after those people stopped being useful. If early humans cared for their elders like this, what might they have done for their children? Travel north now, to Shanidar Cave in the Zagros Mountains of present-day Iraq. Here, archaeologists uncovered the remains of several Neanderthals dating between roughly 70,000 and 45,000 years ago. One skeleton became world famous. Known as Shanidar I, this man had survived devastating injuries: a crushed arm, likely blindness in one eye, serious leg trauma, and yet he lived for years. Ralph Solecki's original excavations in the 1950s first brought this discovery to the world's attention, and modern reanalysis using improved techniques continues to support the same conclusion. Shanidar I survived because others in his group repeatedly cared for him. Think about what that required. Food had to be shared, protection had to be offered, time had to be sacrificed in an environment where every one of those things was expensive. Compassion carried a cost, and our ancestors paid it, not once. Again and again. Your body may still remember this. Every time you instinctively help someone who could never repay you, every time you protect a child before protecting yourself, you may be echoing instincts shaped over hundreds of thousands of years. One more site adds to this picture: Atapuerca in northern Spain, home to some of Europe's earliest known human fossils. Excavations led by Juan Luis Arzuaga, Jose Maria Bermudez de Castro, and Eudald Carbonell revealed populations that lived together, hunted together, and very likely shared resources with one another. No fossil can say the word love. Science cannot measure affection inside a skeleton, but cooperation leaves patterns, and those patterns appear again and again across continents. Even biology seems to echo this ancient story. In 2011, biological anthropologist Lee T. Gettler and his colleagues published a landmark study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Following hundreds of men in the Philippines over several years, they found something striking. Men who became hands-on, involved fathers, experienced significant drops in testosterone, and lower testosterone was linked to greater investment in their children. In other words, the male body itself appears able to shift priorities. From competition to caregiving, evolution shaped more than muscle. It shaped hormones, behavior, attention, maybe even emotion itself. But here's an important caution. Scientists don't believe every prehistoric father behaved the same way. Ancient human societies were incredibly diverse. Some groups may have leaned heavily on devoted fathers, others relied more on mothers, grandparents, older siblings, or the wider group. Evolution rarely writes one universal rule. It writes flexibility. Humans adapted to deserts, forests, ice ages, coastlines, Different environments demanded different solutions, and that flexibility became one of our greatest strengths. But one mystery refuses to disappear. If fatherhood was only an evolutionary strategy, why does it feel so deeply emotional? Why does holding a newborn change so many lives forever? Maybe the answer lies beyond bones and hormones. Maybe it begins with something no excavation can ever uncover, a feeling that existed long before writing did, quietly shaping the future of our entire species. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the end of a long day nearly 50,000 years ago. The hunt is over. A small fire pushes back the darkness. Children sit close together while sparks drift into a sky untouched by cities. An older woman prepares roots gathered that morning. A young hunter sharpens a stone point for tomorrow. And nearby, a father quietly lifts a sleeping child off the cold ground and wraps them in an animal hide. No one records the moment. No artist paints it. No words are written. But if scenes like this happened often enough, they change the future of humanity. Every protected child carried knowledge into the next generation. Every shared meal increased the odds that language, cooperation, and culture would survive. Every small act of care became an invisible investment in tomorrow. This might be the greatest hidden lesson of human evolution. Our species didn't succeed because we were the fastest. We were never the strongest. A leopard could outrun us. A mammoth outweighed us. Even a chimpanzee is stronger than the average human. And yet today, humans live on every continent. We crossed deserts, survived ice ages, sailed oceans, walked on the moon. How? Not through sharper teeth or stronger muscle, through cooperation. In 2010, archaeologist Stephen L. Kuhn and anthropologist Mary C. Steiner argued that the growing social networks of prehistoric humans were key to our species' adaptability. As knowledge, food, and responsibility were shared across groups, survival stopped depending on the strength of one person and started depending on the resilience of the community. Children sat at the center of that community. Unlike almost any other animal, human children learn for years before becoming independent. During that time, they absorb language. They watch, they imitate, they ask questions, they learn which plants heal, which rivers flood, which animals are dangerous, which stories must never be forgotten. That knowledge can't be inherited through DNA. It has to be taught. And teaching takes time, patience, protection. Whether those lessons came from mothers, fathers, grandparents, or the whole group, one thing becomes clear. Human childhood was never a solitary journey. Your body may still remember. Every instinct to comfort a frightened child. Every urge to explain instead of walk away. Every moment you quietly celebrate someone else's success. These behaviors may echo choices made thousands of generations before your name ever existed. But science also demands humility here. Not every ancient father was loving. Not every family was peaceful. Prehistoric life could be brutally hard disease, starvation, violence, unforgiving climates. Many children never reached adulthood. Many parents buried sons and daughters long before their time. The archaeological record is clear. Survival was never guaranteed. That's why honest science avoids simple answers. The evidence strongly suggests caregiving played a vital role in human evolution. It suggests many fathers invested time, protection, and resources into their children. But it cannot prove that every prehistoric father felt love exactly the way we understand it today. Emotions don't fossilize. They only leave consequences. And maybe those consequences are all around us in every family, every tradition, every story passed from one generation to the next. The strange truth is this: the people who shaped our future left behind almost nothing. A few bones, fragments of stone tools, footprints hardened into ancient mud, charcoal from long dead fires. The rest exists only in careful scientific interpretation, and that interpretation keeps changing. New DNA evidence keeps revealing unexpected connections between modern humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans. Fresh excavations keep uncovering villages, burials, and artifacts that challenge old assumptions. Science isn't a list of final answers. It's a conversation that keeps growing richer. And maybe that's why ancient human history feels so personal. When archaeologists uncover a child buried with care, when anthropologists find evidence that an injured person survived because others helped them, when biologists watch a father's hormones shift to nurture an infant, they aren't just studying strangers. They're studying us. Because every heartbeat inside your chest connects back to choices made by people whose names disappeared long ago. People who stood beneath unfamiliar stars. People who feared the same darkness. people who hoped their children would see another sunrise. So did ancient fathers love their children. The most honest answer is this. Many lines of evidence suggest they cared for them, protected them, fed them, taught them, sacrificed for them. Whether that care deserves to be called love is a question no fossil can answer with certainty. And maybe it never will, because love can't be measured with a ruler. It can't be excavated with a brush. It can't be preserved inside stone. It only survives through the lives it changes. We often call ourselves the most intelligent species to ever walk the earth, but our greatest achievement may not be tools, agriculture, or technology. It may be something far quieter. The decision made again and again across countless forgotten generations that a child's future was worth more than a single day's survival. That one simple choice may have carried our species farther than any spear ever could. And maybe the greatest mystery of human evolution isn't how we learn to conquer the world. It's how, in a world built purely for survival, we learn to care for someone else's tomorrow.